Farmington Friends meeting. So great to see so many people here this evening. We've got music and speakers, and I'm very much looking forward to this. So if we're still getting settled, we should just go ahead and get started. All right.
Greetings, friends. Greetings. We are delighted to welcome Tony Cohen and his Freedom Walkers, all the way from Sandy Spring, Maryland. We've talked a lot today. Stopping here on their 750-mile walk to St. Catharines, Ontario, to help us celebrate Juneteenth right here in Farmington. We are so grateful, old people in technology, to the many, many people and organizations who have helped bring this program to life. Chief among them are Farmington Friends, who help both with the planning and the Strawberry Social. If you helped to plan or carry out tonight's program, please stand and accept our warm applause. Mark's Pizzeria, or Baker's Farms, Chase Farms, and Wegmans. And those who and those who help sponsor events for this whole weekend, including Lions National Bank, Aquaba, the Heritage Associates, Rochester and Monroe County Historian's Office, Visit Finger Lakes, Wayne County Tourism Office, Wayne Macedon Historical Society, Farmington Friends Meeting, Rochester Friends Meeting, the First Unitarian Church of Rochester, Universal Human Rights Group of Interfaith Alliance of Rochester and Greater Rochester Community Churches, and Monroe Community College. We also want to thank those who have sponsored our 2026 programs, including the Spindler Family Foundation, the Indigenous Concerns Committee of New York Yearly Meeting of Friends, New York State Council on the Arts, and all of you who are donors in here tonight. It is an honor to have Farmington Friends Choir, directed by our dear friend Marion Cole, to bring music to the occasion. We also have two very special guests from the past. Austin Steward, also known as Doug Curry, who escaped from slavery and came directly to Farmington in 1850. And General Gordon Granger, also known as Peter Grassi, himself grew up near Sodus, New York, and was responsible for Proclamation No. 3 in Galveston, Texas, that announced the end of slavery in the entire United States on June 19, 1865, and as such created Juneteenth as a day of remembrance. A word about our opening song, Follow the Drinking Gourd, refers to the Big Dipper and gives coded directions for people escaping to freedom on the Underground Railroad. It was first recorded by folklorist H.B. Parks in the 19-teens and first published in 1928. It may or may not date to the period before the Civil War. Whatever its origins, it has entered into the canon of American folk songs as an icon. So we present it here to show how Americans, including ourselves, continue to be fascinated with stories of the Underground Railroad. And now, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing an icon of the Underground Railroad. In 1815, Austin Steward escaped from slavery in Bath, New York, and came directly to Farmington, where he lived with Otis Comstock, Amy Smith Comstock, and their 6 children. Steward's influence on this community was profound. We think he might have helped build the 1816 meeting house. He would have likely influenced the impressionable 6-year-old Joseph C. Hathaway, who grew up to become, with his sister Phoebe, 2 of Farmington's best-known abolitionists and women's rights advocates. Steward had a remarkable life, from enslavement in Virginia to freedom in Farmington, to business and community leadership in Rochester and Canada, to his eventual home in Canandaigua, New York. Here to bring you his story is Austin Steward himself. You may know him in his current life as Doug Curry, host of Blacks and Blues in Rochester, and a member of the 1816 Meeting House Board. Please give a warm welcome to both of these gentlemen.
Good evening, brethren and community. Tonight we celebrate the joy and the necessity of becoming free. The struggle for that freedom is not an easy one, nor is it ever completed. My own quest to gain and keep my liberty is chronicled in my autobiography, 22 Years a Slave and 40 Years of Freedom, first published in 1857. Very good book, if I say so myself, and still available in print today, some 170 years later. I quote, "Why, oh why, had I been forced to flee thus from my fellow men? I was guilty of no crime. I had committed no violence. I had broken no law of the land. I was not charged even with a fault, except the love of liberty and the desire to be free. Oh my God, thought I. Can the American people continue to hunt the poor African slave from their soil because he desires the same liberty so dear to the heart of every American citizen? Good evening. My name is Austin Steward. It's an honor to be here once more in Farmington, where I found such a warm welcome so many years ago. I was a young man when I arrived here in 1815, only 22 years old. Up until then, I had lived all of my life under slavery, but I was always determined to be free. I was born in 1793. My parents were Robert and Susan Steward of Prince William County, Virginia. I had one sister, her name was Mary. A family. But our lives were not our own. We were among about 100 enslaved people altogether, the legal property of one Captain William Helm. You might say he was a sport. He liked horse racing, fox hunting, playing cards, and drinking whiskey. From our labor, he spared no expense in providing all the finer things in life to his family, all at the expense of ours. And for our enforced toil and drudgery, we were provided little, save scant clothing, a peck of meal or corn a week, and a rough hut barely adequate for our shelter. To compel this extraction of his enrichment from our degradation, he made daily and liberal use of the whip and other instruments of torture. I shall not offend your senses with further description of the cruelty of it all. You see, we couldn't help but dream of freedom. Dream and set upon it our determined gaze. I may have been luckier than some, for when I was only 7 years old, Captain Helm took me into his household as an errand boy. But I was never out of the sight of the captain or his wife, even sleeping on the floor in their bedroom at night in case they needed anything. In 1800, Captain Helm sold all his property in Virginia except us, his enslaved labor force. He brought us all to Sodas, where he expected to clear the land for a plantation. But none of us had ever done this work. And it soon became very clear that Captain Helm knew nothing about how to survive in this wilderness. So he moved us to Bath, New York. There he owned the grist mill, 2 sawmills, a distillery, 2 farms, and a fine house. We, as the enslaved people, did all the work for these, of course. Our lives were better than they had been in Virginia, but even so, as I wrote later in my autobiography, everywhere that slavery exists, it's nothing but slavery. I found it just as hard to be beaten over the head with a piece of iron in New York as it had been in Virginia. How did I come to Farmington? I began to dream of ways to escape. My first goal was to join the Army during the War of 1812. But Captain Helm refused to let me go, afraid he would lose valuable property if I were killed. He rented me out to a man named Tower. Some of you may know him. He built the village of Alloway, 3 miles south of Lyons. This was a lucky break for me. Captain Helms didn't know it, but according to New York State law, hiring out an enslaved person gave them the legal route to full freedom. I took that chance. One day in early March 1815, I joined a young girl named Millie, who was also determined to be free. We made it as far as Manchester before the pursuers sent by Captain Helm found us. I managed to escape through the dense woods. I found the home of Darius Comstock, president of the Ontario County Manumission Society, only the second such group in New York State. He sent me to his brother Otis, where I stayed for 4 years. I was there when you built this meeting house in 1816. In fact, if I remember correctly, it was a big community project, like a barn raising. Everybody turned out to help, and I expect that I was there too. Mr. and Mrs. Comstock paid me wages, sent me to school, and gave me shelter and protection right here in Farmington, even when Mr. William Helm, my enslaver, tried to recapture me and my whole family. I was so proud when I received my wages. I went directly to Canandaigua, to Mr. Bemis's bookstore, where I bought some textbooks and enrolled in the Farmington Academy when I was 23 years old, and I stayed there 3 years. I left Farmington around 1819 to set up a store in Rochester. And I did very well. But just as importantly, I continued my commitment to abolishing slavery. As I stated in my autobiography, I felt willing to make any sacrifice in my power to serve my Lord by administering to the necessities of my downtrodden countrymen. I taught Sabbath school, sold anti-slavery newspapers, and in 1830 was elected vice president of the first National Black Convention. Then, in 1831, I moved to Canada, where I became a part of the black community called Wilberforce. Wilberforce began to falter under economic difficulties, so I moved back to Rochester in 1837, and then to Canandaigua in 1842. There I taught school, still maintaining my commitment to my people. In the 1840s, I served as a president of 3 black state conventions. I'm proud to say that my daughter Barbara followed in my footsteps. My daughter, yeah, in my life, I was married to Patience Butler. And of all our children, it was Barbara Hand who would take up the fight. It was a loss to us all when she passed in 1861 of typhoid fever. Little did I know that I would meet with the same face on February 15, 1869, a few years after the universal emancipation of my people. I was buried in the West Street Cemetery in Canandaigua, where you can still visit my grave today. There's a park in Rochester, which was renamed in my honor, the Austin Steward Plaza. In fact, I hear that this 1816 Meeting House Group, an amazing project by the way, has organized a program to take place on August 1st to commemorate Emancipation Day, which I celebrated every year, honoring freedom throughout the British Empire. Maybe I'll see you there. You may count on this. If you find yourself within a gathering of those seeking or celebrating freedom, look around. I will be among you. Thank you for being here tonight and listening.
I'd like to next bring up Judy Wellman, the Executive Director of the 1816 Farmington Quaker Meeting House Museum. If I was to give you the entire bio of her accomplishments, we would get nothing else done this evening. Recently awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award from at the New York State History Conference. Very good.
It takes a community, it takes a village. We couldn't do it, all of us. Thank you so much for being here. And there actually is a funny story about that. They said, we want to give you this Lifetime Achievement Award. And I said, well, there's only one problem, I'm not done. So if you just want to leave it for a few years, that's fine. So they gave me that award, and I brought it home, and I saw this plaque, and I noticed they changed it. They said, Career Excellence Award. That's funny. I'm standing up here because I have to show you this outfit. We had a meeting of a committee organizing this program, and people said, well, should we wear costumes? And they said, oh yeah, if you got a costume, wear a costume. And I said, gosh, I have a bloomer costume, but I don't like to wear it because it makes me look fat. And somebody on the committee said, well, take a hit for the team. So I thought, this is an option. I have 2 kids from India, and so I have some Indian outfits and clothes, and this one's called a salwar and kameez. It's a Muslim outfit, and it's one of the models. Some people say that bloomers were modeled after Oneida Indian women's clothes, which they may well have been. But Lady Mary Wortley Montague wore one of these also when she was visiting Turkey. So this may be a model for the bloomer costume. And I thought, well, all right, this will fit, this will work. So that's why I'm here. We're going to introduce tonight a really special part of this program. I'm just so pleased. A freedom seeker named William Wells Brown escaped from slavery in Lexington, Kentucky in 1834. He went to Buffalo, where he became a steward on a steamboat. He said while he was there, he helped 69 people escape from slavery. And in the 1840s, about 1844, 5, and maybe 6, he moved to Farmington. And he became a lecturer for the Western New York Anti-Slavery Society. We're not sure where he lived, but he wrote his autobiography here, his first one, 1847, published. And the direction or the introduction was written by J.C. Hathaway, a member of this meeting, who lived down in Pumpkin Hook, half a mile away, and there's a big marker in front of his house if you'd like to visit it. He may also have lived with William or Susan and Elias Doty, who lived up here half a mile on Canandaigua Road, and were members of the Hicksite meeting across the street, which was that one. And the abolitionist commitment of this community crossed lines between, as some of you may know, Orthodox and Hicksite splits. So we bring you tonight some selections from a hymn book that he compiled called The Anti-Slavery Harp. And we're going to try the first one. There's some notes that we put together so you can read it, so I don't have to talk about this whole thing. But he used the tune of My Country 'Tis of Thee, which we all know, as a way to reflect on the ideals of the country, of the equality and liberty for all people, but he rewrote the words to reflect the fact that he, as a black person, was not part of that liberty and justice for all. And so the words and the music are in tension as they reflect for all of us the ideals of the country and the ways in which not everyone was included. So if you're all willing to stand and try singing this with us, and hopefully the choir will carry the tune, even if we don't, let's try it and see what happens. This is maybe the first time anyone has done this since the 1850s. So congratulations.
No.
Please practice. Please say real.
I've known Tony Cohen for probably almost 30 years, late 1990s. And yet I found it extremely hard to write an introduction for him. And this is the reason why. Tony is universally acclaimed, universally respected, universally loved, and there's nothing I can say that could possibly encompass the immensity of this man. So we are so glad to welcome him here. And I will let you follow up a bit with looking online if you want to follow details. Tony is director of the Manair.org, which is online. He's walking with some wonderful people from Come to the Table, which is also another wonderful group. Tony is a descendant of Patrick Sneed, who escaped from slavery in Savannah, Georgia, and came to Niagara Falls, where he was a waiter at the Cataract House, got recaptured, and was released through the courts and went immediately to Canada. So I worked with Tony a lot on interwoven kinds of stories over many, many years, and I guarantee you will absolutely love this man. Thank you, Tony.
And I have to follow that. Well, I don't know if I can live up to that, but I have my timer on 15 minutes, so I will color within the lines. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for coming out this evening and for inviting Freedom Walk 2026 to your community. It's hard to believe we're here. Compose yourself. I'm going to talk tonight about the Underground Railroad, but through the lens of Freedom Walk 2026. Its past, its present, and its future. The past. Start. The past. So just a little bit of background on me. I'm Tony Cohen. I'm a historian of the Underground Railroad. I was born in 1963 in Washington, D.C. and currently live in Montgomery County, Maryland, where my story, my personal journey on the Underground Railroad actually began. As a child, I was always interested in old things, antiques, historic places, stories that my grandmother, particularly my mother's mother, would tell us about our family, though I don't think I would ever have described myself as a lover of history, at least while I was growing up. But I came to fall in love with history when I started researching my family history. In 1989, at the age of 26, I called up my grandfather, who was living in LA at the time, and this is my father's father, from whom we get the family name, Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, the Jewish term for priest, and we weren't Jewish, and we were black and not Jewish, and so I had always been asked throughout my adulthood at the time how we got this name, and only asked about it when I became an adult, because as a child, we moved from the inner city of Washington, D.C. to suburban Maryland 2 weeks before King's assassination in 1968. And we moved into a Jewish community called Kemp Mill. And we got there because my parents were working professionals. My dad worked for the Department of Agriculture. He was an entomologist, so he studied bugs. And my mom was and still is just this brilliant behavioral researcher who helped train the monkeys that went up on the NASA flights. And then there was me, I only got their good looks. But they wanted to move out of the city, and my mom's boss, this guy named Victor Cohen, lived in this community called Kemp Mill, which was a Holocaust survivors community. And he was about to sell his house, and he said, "John, you should come see my house. It might be perfect for you." So my parents went there, they saw the house, it was their dream house, and so he sold it to my parents. And then when the for sale sign came off of the front lawn, some of the neighbors, all Jewish, said to Victor Cohen, "Hey, who did you sell the house to?" And he said, "Oh, some Cohens." And then we showed up, what I call our guess who's coming to Shabbat moment. But it was a very warm and engendering community, and nobody spoke about differences. So it was only later when people would meet me and they'd say, "Cohen, you?" And so I had to ask my granddad, and he said that his father, my great-grandfather, had been born free black in Philadelphia during the Civil War, orphaned and then adopted by a Jewish family from Farmington, Delaware. And the moment I heard that, the theme song to Roots started playing in my head, and I thought I was going to go have my Kunta Kinte moment and do the genealogy and whatnot. Long to short, diving into family history brought me headlong into American history. Because every time I put another name on my family tree, I would research the places that they were from to understand more about the times and the conditions in which they lived. And so I took about a decade off of out of school between graduating from high school, from high school in 1982 to returning as an art history major to the Corcoran School of Art in 1992, and then pursuing an American history degree. And anyway, so for my senior project, I was given an assignment to document some part of American history that had gone unrecorded, and I chose the topic of the Underground Railroad. And I can't even tell you how I chose that topic, but at the time I was working for the Montgomery County Historical Society, and I volunteered in their library on the weekends, and so I figured if I do a local history topic, I can go to my volunteer job, do my research while I'm sitting there, right? And kind of maximize my time. So I began looking for the Underground Railroad, but the first thing I did, you ask experts what they know. And so there was this archivist who worked there for decades. And so I told her what I was going to do, that I was going to research the Underground Railroad. Did she have any information about the Underground Railroad? And she says, "Well, I can save you the time and trouble." She said, "There was no Underground Railroad in Montgomery County, Maryland. You see, Montgomery County was a southern county in a southern state. During the Civil War, we sent our finest young men across the Potomac, and they served under General Lee. In fact, in 1860 election, only 5 people in Montgomery County voted for Abraham Lincoln. Thus, there was no Underground Railroad because the blacks wouldn't have gotten help here." And I thought, this black ain't getting any help here. What is she talking about? So, I proceeded and I researched in secret. And I won't go go into all the gory details, but I found runaway slave notices in newspapers that were printed in the 1850s in our county. And they mentioned people who had escaped. They mentioned roads that they thought they had traveled on, aliases that they were traveling under, accomplices, places that some had escaped to previously in northern states, were captured and then returned. I found court records of people who'd been tried and convicted of harboring people in my county. And then the slave narratives, as they're known, were full of accounts of people passing through our county. Long and short, I was able to document over 30 points of interest that related to the Underground Railroad, 6 routes of escape, and 3 safe houses. And then I finished my paper, I got an A, and I graduated with a history degree from American University, and then faced a mystery greater than that of the Underground Railroad, which is, what do you do with a history degree? So you volunteer, you just go back and volunteer. And so I was at the Historical Society when the archivist looks up at me one day and says, "Hey, did you ever write that paper?" And I shared it with her, and then the Historical Society got a grant to publish it as a book. And then I started being asked to share it in the community with different school groups. Long to short, I have an instant bestseller. The book sold 500 copies in 6 weeks. And then about a year and a half later, while I was between jobs, using a 2-month window, I decided I was going to follow one of those routes to see where it led. And this is a very long story that I'll just crunch down. So I started off on May 4th, 1996, heading to Canada, traveling through 5 states for 6.5 weeks, traveling 10 to 25 miles a day, stopping in the towns along the way and asking people what they knew about the Underground Railroad. The story was picked up in the media. Smithsonian Magazine followed me on the last 10 days of the walk. Oprah Winfrey read that story. I worked with her, preparing her for her role in Beloved. And then a career as an Underground Railroad historian, who knew such a thing existed, began. And I eventually formed a nonprofit to preserve the legacy of the Underground Railroad through interactive programs. At the time, I did not realize that I myself was making history. And it was later that people in the history community described my work as experiential or experimental history. So I was kind of at the front lines of an area of study that I didn't even know existed until I did it. Fast forward to last year. It's Inauguration Day. There's a dark cloud over our national psyche. And then I began hearing people complain, woe is us, what are we going to do for the next year, next 4 years? And I remember just saying to myself, we can't live like this. Especially the attack on American history. So as I searched my mind for some kind of positive response, I realized that this year would be the 30th anniversary of my 96 walk. And I said, why don't you walk again? Being 62, that's kind of a reason not to walk again. I wasn't sure I could even do it. And then a fundraiser friend of mine said, I'll come along and I'll help you raise funds for this. And he contacted AARP, and they said, 62-year-old man walking 750 miles, that's our demographic. So we had a response, and I'm like, oh, I can't back out of it now. So I also partnered with coming to the table, a great organization taking America beyond the legacy of enslavement, and we put together Freedom Walk 2026. Oh gosh, I'm going to go over by 2 minutes. Okay, so Freedom Walk started May 4th, 2026. I'll say that May 4th was the day I started in 1996. In the interim, May 4th became Star Wars Day. And it occurred to us that Star Wars was a story about a galaxy not far, far away, nor long ago, where there was great darkness, and a scrappy bunch of people had to pull together to fight an evil empire. Sound familiar? Yes. So, we have been traveling about 12 to 17 miles a day and stopping in towns along the way and asking people what they remember of this important part of our history. We've been doing community activations where communities like you pull together and share that history. So we are honored to be part of that. But one thing we are determined to, if not answer, to ask is about the next 250 years. And I started doing this with school kids. You all look at least young at heart. So I'm going to do it here. And imagine like the best class ever, where you never have to raise your hand and you can shout out any answer you want without being chosen. So I want each of you, whoever, to shout out a word or a phrase that expresses what you want to see our nation become in the next 250 years. Okay, one at a time. Just kidding. Go again.
Democratic.
Totally equitable.
Totally equal.
Inclusive.
Liberation.
Compassionate.
Kind.
Women in charge.
By the way, in 2016, a woman got more votes than a guy did. I just want to remind you, America will elect a woman. Anything else? What was that? Free. Let's close on that. Thank you, and keep marching towards freedom.
And I have to follow that. So I'd like to, Marion, do you have an introduction for yourselves? No? All right.
Just sing it. Let's stand and sing.
So stand up and sing along with Marion.
Yeah.
The North Star. One of old Susanna, I think we're rarely songs, so let's rally.
Thank you.
come together today on June 19th to commemorate Juneteenth. It all started in Galveston, Texas with the issuance of General Order Number 3, announcing that all enslaved people were finally free. But unknown to most of us, Juneteenth has a very special connection to our very own local history. The man who announced the proclamation was none other than the man who was born in Joy, New York, grew up in Sodus, and attended school in Marion, New York, before becoming a school teacher in Sodus. It is my great pleasure to introduce a man who grew a beard special for this occasion. After his wife said he could. Peter Grassi, our very own General Gordon Granger. Greetings.
Greetings, my fellow Americans, on this fine summer evening. My name is General Gordon Granger. Yes, the General Gordon Granger. Very same one gained fame by announcing Proclamation Number 3 in Galveston, Texas, June 19, 1865, that slavery was forever finished in the United States. This began what we now know as Juneteenth. Today is the 166th anniversary of that momentous day. And it's my honor to tell you a little bit about what happened. But first, some background about myself. I was born on November 5th, 1821, in a house that still stands in Joy, New York, just south of Sodus. I had a hard childhood. My mother died when I was less than 4 years old, so I was sent to live with my grandparents in Farmington. My grandfather sent me to school, and my very first job was as a teacher on Preemption Road in Sodus in 1840. When I found a pamphlet about West Point, I was determined to become a cadet. I graduated in 1845. I was not at the top of my class. I wasn't even close. For someone who had been a teacher himself, I liked fighting a lot more than studying. I graduated 6th in a class of 41. I graduated just in time to serve in the Mexican-American War under old Fuss and Feathers himself. We fought everywhere from Veracruz to Mexico. After that war, I was a scout on the western frontier. I fought Comanches and Apaches, some of the happiest days of my life. But when Fort Sumter fell to the Rebs, I knew that war was going to be long and hard. People said I was a rough diamond, rough appearing, kind of a jerk. Maybe not to my face, but I knew it. I knew that attention to detail and strict discipline were important. I never learned the art of diplomacy. That was for other folks. My career wasn't always easy, but in spite of my personality, my superiors in the Civil War, such as General Pope, called me a man of brave and courage. So I rose through the ranks steadily. Major, Colonel, Brigadier General, fought in many battles, but I truly made a name for myself in September 1863. Chickamauga, Georgia. Now, they've called me the savior of Chickamauga, and they're right. If not for me, the whole Army of the Cumberland would have been lost, and maybe the war itself. So, you're welcome. Now, after Lee's surrender at Appomattox in 1865, I was sent with 6,000 men from Mobile, Alabama, to Galveston, Texas. Imagine my surprise when I found that everyone there, slave or free, had not yet heard the Emancipation Proclamation. It had been proclaimed over 2 years earlier. My superior at the time, General Sherman, ordered me to inform everyone of what had happened, so I did. Now, one person who agreed I was a good administrator, but no fun to be around, was General Grant himself. On July 19th, 1865, just 1 month after Juneteenth, he ordered me to leave Galveston for New Orleans. My life made a turn for the better then. In 1869, I married a woman from Lexington, Kentucky. We had 1 son. I continued to serve in the Army for the rest of my career, and I was in charge of the whole New Mexico district when I passed away in January 10th, 1876. I was only 54. They sent my body to Lexington, Kentucky to be buried with my wife's family. And so I made a very special and long trip to be here with you tonight to commemorate the action that made me the most famous. Proclamation Number 3 initiated Juneteenth, now a national holiday. Now, true confession, I didn't actually announce this to the assembled masses in Galveston. I posted it around town. News traveled quickly by word of mouth. So we are going to make another modification to how that momentous event happened. As per your programs, I will be reading one sentence and you will be calling it in response. We are going to read the Juneteenth proclamation together. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights of property between former masters and slaves. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. Thank you for having me. God bless America.
One thing that's not in the program is any chance for all of you to say something. And I'm feeling as if we should offer you a chance to ask questions of these illustrious speakers, or to give your comments for 5 minutes if you'd like to do that. Anyone have anything you'd like to say, or question, or ask, or comment? You're just so overwhelmed. You're Gettysburg Address. Everyone was totally quiet.
General Granger, how long did it take you to grow your beard?
Not that I'm counting, but it was 4 months.
It is a good-looking beard. Chances are pretty good it's gone today or tomorrow. Pizza beard.
It might not make it the ride home.
My question is for General Granger. Can you tell me how many of your men were ex-slaves, freedmen?
I cannot.
There were 6,000 to 7,000 black troops, though, that you commanded, so we don't know. Do you know, Tony? No, I don't either. Good question, though.
I don't know how often they documented that, really, when they did their enlistment, other than where they came from.
They should all have some records, yeah.
Records, but I don't know how much their servitude is listed. Any other? I'm coming your way.
I'll just speak up because I'll shout over this way. How many people are doing the march with you?
Yes. So our entire walk team rises and falls with different locations, but there's about a dozen of us here on the road, and there's at least half a dozen in this room. Can all members of Freedom Walk 2026 please stand up?
So Tony, I'm also 62. Well, my question is, did you prepare any differently for this walk than you did for your previous walk?
No.
And how are you making out with your walking?
Thank you. Where's my walking stick? So first of all, in 1996, I was 3 years off of being a long-distance runner. Running used to be my thing. And then when I turned 29, my knees started crunching, making weird noises, so I'm like, okay, done with that. And so as the date approached, I kept thinking, okay, you gotta get out and you gotta get some miles under your feet, you gotta be in shape. And so one night, I just got the spirit and I walked out of my house. It was 8 o'clock at night, it was dark, and I was running up the street, and I got 1 block up, and I fell into a pothole. And I could feel my ankle twist. I wasn't injured, but I sat there for a moment. I got to my feet, I turned around, and I walked back to my house. The very next time I trained was the day I started walking. This time I wasn't sure I could walk 5 miles. So last summer, when I was spending 2 weeks in Cape Cod, I decided to start training. And I got myself up to 3 consecutive 14-mile days with no aches or pains. And then I'm like, great. I'll be fine when it's time to walk again. And then I started training the day that we started this morning.
General Granger, had you found any connection ever with the prominent Granger family in Canandaigua that was so prominent earlier in the 19th century?
So one of the things you have with an actor is they haven't always done the historical research. We have experts that fill in the details on the stage. So, unless you wanted to answer.
I want to work.
She's close.
Actually,
Oh,
I'm in theater. I know how to do this. Oh, pardon?
This is one of my cousins. In case we had no audience, I invited 6
And it wasn't a thing.
family. What's family for, right?
It was not difficult to make the choice to come. We've respected Judy and her amazing work for decades. But that's what I rise to speak about now. Being here, meeting General Granger and Austin Steward, and certainly Tony and his crew. What I gained from this is the determination, the power of historical research, and therefore the education for all of us, especially important in these dark times. So thank you. Thank you.
I have a question for Austin Steward. And that question is, how much did you know about yourself before you became Austin Steward?
Well, I live in Rochester, and any place that Austin Steward spent more than 2 nights will claim him, as George Washington slept here. So through the years, there were different times when there was an Austin Steward craze, and then not. So I knew about him on and off. Frederick Douglass or Susan B. Anthony. So I can't say that I was really knowledgeable about him. I knew about him, I was aware of him, but not to the extent that I was any sort of that expert other than taking what's on the page and try to make it come alive.
This is a question for Tony. This is kind of might be a personal question. Feel free to not answer it if you don't. But how far have you traced your roots back?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll answer in a couple of ways. According to my Ancestry.com results, I am 48.2% African and 47.8% European. So kind of straight down the middle with a few variables we're still trying to figure out. I trace the Jewish lines of my family, and by the way, I learned that I do have Jewish lines, not just a Jewish name, on 2 lines of my father's side. One which came into Savannah, Georgia in 1733 after the colony was just opened for England. And my 5th great grandfather there started a congregation, Mikveh Israel, which is the 3rd oldest in the New World. So that was interesting. I have traced black lines of my, some lines of my family back to the 1770s. So I'm making progress on that. And then discovered these Virginia lines, which go back to the 1640s. One thing that I do is I'm a big fan of finding your roots. Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. And so I always tape the shows, and then I watch them on, on demand. And I open my ancestry account, and I sit at my desk, and whoever the guest is, I'll pause when he shows, a piece of the trees put together from there, and I'll add their names in. So I am related to Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon, who are both related to each other. They're all New Englanders, so like my lands, I have Northerners in my family. But I love you people. And one time a friend was talking about, I think, Nathaniel Hawthorne, so I was like, oh, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and a bunch of matches came up, so I don't even know what that means. I'm related to Roseanne Cash. I am related to Glenn Cliff. I'm related to a lot of white people. And I believe I'm related to Brittany Griner. So I'm probably related to most of you.
I have grandchildren who I love dearly. What's one thing that they will probably not hear about in school about the Underground Railroad that I should share with them?
Let me give you 2 things. So one thing they will not hear about the Underground Railroad in school was a dark and terrifying second Middle Passage. The Underground Railroad is full of betrayal, violence, all sorts of terror, trick joy, meaning many self-liberators, had to make the first journey out. They had to leave the plantation all on their own before they could get to a place where they could connect with the loosely more highly motivated system that we know as the Underground Railroad. And sometimes it was directions, travel for 2 days and then cross the big river. Well, sometimes that river was the Susquehanna, where you're crossing from one side of the Maryland shore to the other, if you're in the wrong place. Or they'd get to free soil, and slave catchers would be waiting for them there. Why chase people? Just go to where they're going, right? And so I think this aspect of the Underground Railroad is understudied, has not been studied enough. And so that's that. One of the things that I did on my first walk that I didn't tell you is from Philadelphia to New York, I traveled inside of a wooden crate, smuggled on an Amtrak train. Big long story, invite me back, I'll tell you that. But What was that? Yeah, so I had told some kids in Philadelphia about Henry Box Brown, who shipped himself from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia. And they were asking all the questions, you know, how did he breathe in the box, and was there food in it, and how did he go to the bathroom? Fortunately, history does not record that. But I was falling behind on my walk, and I needed to make up time. So I was like, boy, I wish I had a box like Henry Box Brown. And then 48 hours later, I had a box like Henry Box Brown, and friends smuggled me onto an Amtrak train. It was supposed to be 2 hours travel, but we missed the first train. So it ended up being 6 hours after we caught the next train. The day we built the crate, it was 75 degrees. The day I traveled, it was 99 degrees. The box was mislabeled. It was supposed to go in the coach car. It went in freight. Just all these disasters kind of befell me. One of the most interesting parts was during the journey, being processed, sitting on the platform, waiting for the train to come. People would walk up to the box, and every time they did, I would just focus on being silent, still, not making any noise. Stomach, please don't growl. When they would walk away, all I was focused on was the conditions. How hot it is. Oh, I'm running out of air. Oh, I'm gonna pass out. And then someone would come back again, and I'm like, okay, don't make any noise, right? And so after a while, I realized I was actually okay in the box, and that it was adrenaline. Most likely, it was adrenaline, which was the chief fuel used to power the Underground Railroad. So even though it was rife with danger, even though there was great fear, something about being in the moment, at least for me, I suspect for them, propelled them. And part of that, I think, was adrenaline, a fight and flight, right, response. So that probably isn't in their textbooks.
One other, Tony, can you say who the 5 people were who voted for Lincoln in your county?
Oh yes. So that's so funny. So when the woman said that only 5 people voted for Lincoln, and I said, who were they? And she leaned over to whisper, which was weird because there was nobody else in the room at the time. And she said, they were Quakers. And I'm like, yes, I did. Yes. That's what gave me the strength to go forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. So we have one final aspect of our performance tonight. Choir. And then the benediction, of course.
So this is another one of the local William Wells Brown words. And it goes, "Tell me if my faith looks up to thee," so you all know it.
and fill us with the Spirit as we prepare to go. May the blessing of God who liberates, sustain, who sends, go with you. Go in peace. Amen.